I first heard about A Whisker Away through seeing it in my recommended videos on YouTube, and the trailer certainly sparked my curiosity in the movie. I had only considered watching it as a joke and was amused by the off-the-wall concept, but when I heard it had finally arrived on Netflix, I decided to give it a watch, and I liked it. It had an interesting concept and some good messages, but it could have been so much better. The disappointing part is this movie only has one real problem in my opinion. Everything else is executed well or even wonderfully, but the one glaring problem is pretty much the emotional core of the movie, so it's hard for it not to ruin the experience. As you watch the beginning of A Whisker Away, you may begin to feel a sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize exactly who you're going to be stuck with for the next hour and 45 minutes, when you really meet Mio Sasaki. But you don't need to be alarmed. This is a common side effect that many viewers experience, and you can still hold out hope that Mio recognizes her mistakes and changes to be a better person in the end. Oh wait! You can't! Okay, I suppose I'm exaggerating a little. Mio does have moments of self-reflection throughout the movie, where she recognizes that she has problems she needs to work on, but for some reason, she doesn't work on them. And the movie as a whole is just like, yeah, she's fine. It's okay, she didn't really hurt anyone with her behavior. Don't worry, everything's happy now. Please don't think about it too much. I just want my ship to come true. If you haven't seen the movie yet, which, by the way, spoiler warning for the whole thing, you're probably wondering what makes this protagonist so difficult to watch. To summarize, it's because she's a creepy stalker who has no concept of personal boundaries or that no means no, but let me elaborate a little more. A Whisker Away focuses on the character of Mio, a high school girl whose mother left her at a young age and is now having to adjust to life with a stepmother. She's pretty unhappy with this situation, even though she does put on a nice face for others. Luckily though, there's one boy at school whose mere existence pulls her through it all. Kento Hinode. Mio is completely obsessed with Kento, and she never tries to hide it. Every morning, she tries smashing into him with her backside just to get a glimpse from her senpai, and even the smallest of victories, like him acknowledging her existence, turn her into a squealing, blushing puddle on the floor. Mio, not surprisingly, only has one real friend, Yuriko, who rightfully is put off by her behavior and tells her to cut it out, and it seems like everyone's on board with viewing Mio as the stalker she is. But things get complicated when you consider Mio's home life. When she was only in elementary school, her mom walked out on the family, leaving Mio to feel unwanted and unloved. And she couldn't seek refuge at school either, since her classmates at large started bullying her for her parents getting divorced. You do have to have some empathy for Mio for going through what she has to. And this brings in the difficult question of accountability. Mio's life is tough, and it doesn't seem like she has a great support system, but her new stepmother never shows any signs of being abusive or cruel, and throughout the movie she does nothing but support Mio. It's implied they don't really know what's going on in Mio's life, as they aren't even aware of being bullied at school until Yuriko tells them, but we see different instances where Mio's mother Karu notices there's something wrong with her and tries to get Mio to open up, but her daughter just gets upset with her and doesn't talk about it. Now, Mio's inability to open up is addressed at the end of A Whisker Away, and that's one of the mistakes she admits to, which is a good character arc and a helpful message to send to viewers. But, in my opinion, having a difficult life emotionally and denying opportunities for help even when she's presented them does not excuse Mio's harassment of Kento. When Kento is knowingly harassed by Mio, and don't worry, we'll get into the unknowingly part later, he never reciprocates the feeling and outright denies her in some circumstances. Mio should at least know not to continue her behaviors because they clearly make Kento uncomfortable. Even if she doesn't stop crushing on him in secret, Mio has been given multiple opportunities to recognize her weird behavior and cut it out, but she doesn't, and that's when the accountability comes in my opinion. If another group was encouraging Mio even when Kento was upset by these actions, I could see how she might get mixed messages and would lose some of that accountability due to bad influences. But literally everyone in the whole school thinks she is weird and creepy and is vocal about this fact, even her one friend. By the way, let's really discuss some of Mio's stalker behavior, at least the one she has in her human form. First, there's the aforementioned butt smashing, which just why? Then there's the tree incident. So Mio and Yuriko are eating lunch on a bridge outside, and they overhear two boys below making fun of Mio, which is somewhat wrong on their part since teasing her only adds to her feeling of loneliness and her fantasy that Kento is the only one who loves her. But their judgment of Mio is definitely justified. Yuriko tries to keep Mio from getting upset by their jokes, but she actually doesn't need to put in a lot of effort since Mio just shrugs it off, saying she doesn't care what other people say. I mean, admirable self-confidence there, but this is one instance where you should listen to other people's judgments of you. Anyway, the boys then switch the subject to Kento, speculating that he's been cheating since his grades suddenly went up. And of course, no one criticizes Senpai, so Miyu leaps into action. Literally. I mean, she jumps off the bridge and onto the ground below. I know it's partly because she's had experience as a cat, so she thinks she can jump off of things and just land on her feet, but this is psychopathic behavior. Mio, as you'd expect, causes a scene, with Kento even coming to see what's going on. Since everyone else is too freaked out to do anything, Kento decides to be a good person and leads her to the nurse's office. Mio, of course, views this as her knight in shining armor coming to rescue her and as a sign of affection from Kento, when he only does it because he's a decent human being and is clearly still uncomfortable around her throughout the interaction. The movie, as usual, doesn't show any signs of disrupting Mio's fantasy and plays it off as another victory for Mio, manipulating your crush into empathizing with you by injuring yourself just to defend their reputation. Classic romance. There's a similar situation to this when Mio goes missing. Although she doesn't really go missing, she just decides to permanently stay in her cat form. After she runs away, Mio's parents ask the school for help in finding her, with them enlisting Yoriko in particular since she's closest to Mio. Yoriko alerts Kento and his friend, sorry I forgot his name, and they decide the situation is too dangerous for them to wait, and so they leave the school to go look for Mio right away. Now, the movie tries to paint this as Kento showing that he really does care about Mio, and that all of that previous rejection was just him not knowing how to express his feelings. First of all, this decision in general is very out of character for Kento, considering how much academic pressure his mother puts on him, so skipping school probably wouldn't be the best idea, but in the end, Kento only does this out of worry for Mio, because he's a decent human being who cares about the lives of others. He never mentions any romantic interest for Mio during the search, and is only doing it out of basic concern for her safety. I wouldn't be surprised if he even felt guilty for this, since he didn't accept the relationship Mio tried to force on him, which, by the way, he shouldn't feel guilty. Of course, that's what manipulation does to you. But you know, selfishly running away and causing all of the people who care about you to feel immense worry and guilt. Classic romance. And now, let's talk about one of the biggest mistreatments of Kento. The love letter. Mio has a rise in self-confidence and decides to write a love letter to Kento. The next day at school, she goes to deliver the letter to him, but one of the bullies from earlier snatches it away and begins to have a field day with it. He starts reading it in front of the whole class, mocking Mio's cheesy poems and creepy anecdotes. Again, this is obviously a little too cruel and mean-spirited, but the judgment is still very much justified. Mio and Yoriko try to get the letter back, telling the bully to stop it as they chase him around the room, and soon Kento joins in, although he's not full on joining the chase, but simply telling the bully to stop. Eventually, Mio knocks the bully over and yells at him, when Kento intervenes and tells her to stop. He explains to her outright that he doesn't like her pursuing him, and that it makes him uncomfortable, and how he feels hurt by the fact that she never considered how he felt throughout the whole thing. While yes, Kento was a little harsh about it and could have handled it better, this is a great example of setting boundaries, and that no means no. Sadly, though, we're forced to side with Mio and feel so bad that her crush rejected her. Continuing to pursue your crush even when they explicitly state that they are not interested. Classic romance. So, that was a lot of creepy stalking, but that's only what Mio does as a human, but we'll get into that later. In my book, Mio is accountable for her creepy behavior because she is explicitly told that it is creepy and wrong every time she tries to do it. And you know what? I don't like it, but I can accept an unlikable protagonist under one condition. The movie condones these actions by punishing Mio for them and making her change for the better. This was my last hope as I was watching A Whisker Away, and I held it out all the way until the very end. But the movie decided to take my hope and squash it with a sledgehammer thicker than the mask seller's neck. Because guess what? Mio and Kento end up together! I know, that sounds super weird and like it should never happen, but it turns out Kento secretly liked Mio all along because she was nice to him as a cat. Alright, there's a lot of things wrong with that, so let's talk about it. So, the movie's main argument for why Mio and Kento should end up together is that Kento loved Mio's cat form, Taro. If you haven't seen the movie, Mio finds a magic mask seller at a summer festival who gives her a mask that, when she wears it, turns her into a little white cat. Mio uses uses this cat mask to turn into Taro, a supposed stray cat that Kento takes in. And so she sneaks into Kento's house and spends extra time with him, all without him knowing it's even happening. And once Kento learns that Taro was actually Mio in disguise, rather than being rightfully freaked out by this complete overstepping of boundaries, he decides that it just shows how Mio was supporting him all along, and so that means they should be together. First of all, I'm ruling this action as completely out of character. Kento hated Mio's weird stalking behavior, and sneaking into his house without his knowledge is totally weird stalking behavior, so it makes no sense for him to suddenly be touched by it. Second of all, even if this is in character, this seems like the foundation for a very strange relationship. This realization makes it seem like Kento is indebted to Mio because she supported him all this time, so it's only fair that he supported her back. That's not how it works, especially when Mio already harassed him as a human. Besides, supported is a strong word in my opinion. She was mainly just being a cute cat who licked him when he was sad. There was no romance there, and if there was, Kento, I gotta break it to you, buddy, but you're not supposed to do that. And so, despite everything going against it, besides all of the uncomfortable looks, tight body language, and the outright no's, Mio and Kento have a relationship in the end. Mio never apologizes to Kento for her creepy actions. No, she's actually rewarded for it. If she hadn't secretly stalked him in her cat form, he never would have come to the conclusion in the end that he should start a relationship with her. It's all Kento's fault, really. Their relationship could have easily worked out if he had just realized how much Mio really cared about him. Look, I could have even shrugged this off since the rest of the movie is very well done, but Mio and Kento's relationship becomes the emotional core of the movie, and so it's pretty hard to ignore. A Whisker Away wants you to see them holding hands at the end and cheer and say, look how much they've grown, but really they've done nothing but go backwards in their relationship. They both learn on their own to open up to the people who care about them and to express their emotions truthfully, but they don't learn how toxic their relationship really is. I guess the worst part about this is that it ruins what could have been a great movie. A Whisker Away has beautiful visuals, a creative concept, and a great message that hiding your emotions only hurts everyone in the end. But throughout the movie, you're too busy cringing at Mio's harassment of Kento to enjoy it, and you're left with a sour taste in your mouth as you watch the movie root for their ship in the end. As always, shipping ruins everything. Maybe I'm looking into it too much and I missed the point, or maybe you agree with me and think I hit it on the mark. Don't be afraid to let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching, and always remember, Kento deserves better. 言葉を持って